Coffee with Toffees on this day, November 14th, 2014. It is 9 a.m. on the Eastern Time Zone where I happen to live, and I'm ready to give you a little bit of Dota 2 morning news because, hey, that's what I live for. Actually, I live for my kids and some other things too. But beyond that, it's all about Dota 2. All right, so quick intros. You know me. My name's Toffees. You can follow me at Toffees_Dota 2 for updates on everything from morning shows to mass casting matches. It's all a good time. If you want to get anything else from the show, SoundCloud.com/Toffees_Dota 2 has links to our YouTube, our RSS feed, our podcast. And I've had a lot of folks ask me, Toffees, why don't you have a podcast? I swear to God, I'm going to punch you because I do have a podcast. We've had it up for about 4 months now. You can find it by searching Coffee with Toffees. It's W/baby, not a full word. And that's how you find it over on iTunes, or you can get the RSS feed linked on the SoundCloud site. We've got the YouTube. We've got pretty much anything you could want. But the two things I want to talk about today are the brand new chat channel over in Steam. You can go there. You can join our Steam chat. It is Coffee with Toffees W/. And that gets you right in so you can chat with me directly anytime you want. If you've got news stories, I love to hear them. And the other big one is if you want to support the show, please do so. Patreon.com/Toffees. You can donate $1. You can donate 100. We're almost to the stretch goal that gets us t-shirts. I've been working on the design, so I'm excited about releasing those once we get there. But keep in mind, Christmas is just around the corner, and what better way to say I love you than to support the podcast? You can even give support in the name of a friend. There's a little suggestion for you. All right, that said, enough about me. Let's talk about our guests today. We have joining us here Leviathan, the two of the head honchos, Josh Shibby Trenholm, I think I said that correctly, and the captain/drafter Andrew Jenkins. Jenkins, welcome to the show. How are you guys doing today?
We're doing good. How about you?
I'm all right. So is your real last name Jenkins, Andrew? And it's just,
It is, yeah.
Nice.
Last name.
So Andrew Jenkins. There you go. So these guys are joining us on the show, and I want to point out that we invited them to come to the show for a couple of reasons. A, I've known the guys for a while. B, the fans wanted to talk to them. And C, we asked them before the giant kill of Navi US yesterday that ultimately led them to pulling out of some tournaments. So we were going to do this before that. Now it even makes it more fortuitous. But I will say I was up very late last night watching those replays. So I'm a little bit tired, so bear with me. I brought the coffee. We should be good. But let's jump right into pro news, boys and girls. There is a fair amount of it, a lot more than usual. All right, so first and foremost, the first one up that I think we've probably all heard about, Mushi leaves Team Malaysia, kind of up out of nowhere, man. He just tweeted this out on the 11th and said, hey, I've officially left Team Malaysia. Good luck, boys, and was gone. So he went on the record and said, we left on good terms, but it sounds like he just wasn't really getting along in terms of being a captain. And he talked a bit about how he missed playing for DK. He apologized to the fans, but felt that after the retirements, it just wasn't going to be the same team. Do you guys, did you have any thoughts on the Team Malaysia situation at all?
I mean, it was obviously out of nowhere. Right. They were doing really well. It's not like they were a bad team by any means, but I guess he just, I don't know, maybe he wanted to be, he's so used to being, on a god tier team that, I don't know, maybe he just decided he wants to
try something new.
Yeah.
Yep, hard to say why, but it happened, and he's moved on. So another legend, a legend in the field, just keeps on moving forward. Time marches on, I suppose. So that's the situation with Muchi, and then Mushi, not Muchi. Muchi's my uncle. All right, so this basically moves us forward to the next section of pro news. A bunch of huge changes for some big tournaments. The first one that we'll talk about is I'm going to go with Moscow 5. Has actually announced a new roster. So I debated on even covering this because Moscow 5 has, how do you say been performing dismally without being insulting? Well, they have. And it's been really rough to see. I thought, a lot of us I think expected more when they announced the initial sponsorship. They just haven't been gelling. Well, they've launched a new team, M5 International, built around MSS. And we all know MSS obviously for his black holes, his ability to hit amazing ones, or just generally whiff them. So this team feels to me, and the roster is PGG, sorry, not MSS, I meant PGG, ZXC, right, there's so many letters. Ugh, I'm glad you guys have names, because I never forget names. Acronyms, letters, they're a lot harder.
Names, yeah.
So PGG, ZXC, Necroman, Screen, and Bignum make up the new Moscow 5. And it looks like a good team, but here's what I'll say. This literally reminds me of a PGG game start to finish. There's a huge potential that they're going to land those black holes, that this team is going to be a hit, and they're going to perform really well. But there's also a huge potential that this is going to be a massive miss. Are you familiar with these players, or is this just sort of the Eastern European scene just keeps on launching and seeing if they're going to fire?
We actually have played against a lot of PGG's teams over the years. It's weird because the guy's obviously like really talented. Like he was, maybe not like top tier, but like obviously like he's from TI1. He's like pretty much like TI2. He's like super famous from that because he was like pretty high tier in terms of a player. But since then he's just like been on. So like he's had so many of like PGG teams that are just like PGG +4 that I don't know, like he's just had so many different rosters. It's like hard to know what to think about his teams because they always seem to like they cause upsets and then they just disappear after a while. I mean that's just PGG.
Right, it does seem that way. So that's where I think like this team could be amazing, or once again they could fade into darkness. But they're coming in with sponsors. The team is built around him, so hopefully they put out some good numbers. The next big piece of information is Ake tweeted it out first. With the implication that big things were coming, he said, we'll forfeit our game tonight versus Tinker, pull out from the tournament, and try to rebuild our team. Thanks for being patient. This was on the 10th of November. It was followed right after by a tweet from Kelly Milky saying that she was incredibly sad about something or another. And then when we roll over to D2L, we see that they contacted AC and said, we're not going to be playing in this tournament anymore. So basically they threw the Summit game by not showing up, and then they pulled out of the D2L. Those are two huge tournaments that Alliance is removing themselves from. They haven't announced any roster changes or any long-term issues, but walking away from hundreds of thousands of dollars of potential revenue means that something is definitely going on.
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea what's going on there.
Right. I mean, it's more something that we can't really tell. It's internal. I think to those of us who don't play professionally all the time or who are trying to break into the scene in the tier 1 level, like maybe our guest today, does it seem a little bit crazy to you that for any reason whatsoever you'd walk away from a $75,000 tournament?
Yeah, it seems really strange. Like, it's a lot of money. It's good practice, good experience. But, I don't know. It does seem like they've been having a little bit of issues lately when I've been watching them.
Like, yeah, I don't know. If they're planning on rebuilding, like, there's not really a point in practicing with a team that you don't think is going to beat the same roster with. I don't know. There's just no point in practicing.
So it sounds, and that I agree with that assessment. It sounds to me like maybe there's some roster issues on the horizon, some weird discussion. We talked about some really weird buys during their final games before that announcement. We'll see how it goes. But just as a heads up to you guys, Alliance, one of those dynasty teams, and you, the fans, should probably know what's going on with them. Another big one that goes along with that is Cloud9 also announced that they will not be participating in the remainder of the D2L. So they cited differently. They said it's because they've got too big of a tournament schedule to do this. My question, though, is honestly with Alliance pulling out and some of the issues that have been happening with the teams already in D2L, including the disappearance of Secret, why wouldn't you stay in that tournament? Because the chances of making it to a payday are insanely high compared to where they were a couple of weeks ago. But they walk away, which is interesting to me because both of those teams are run by GG. So, and by the way, so is the tournament. D2L is the brainchild of GG Gaming. So,
conspiracy.
Say what?
Conspiracy.
Well, it's just weird to me, right? Like, if you're going to leave a tournament, why would you leave the tournament brought up by your sponsor? I don't know. I'll have to ask AC for maybe some insight if he's allowed to give it to me on that. But it's a very confusing time. That said, the D2L is in a tough situation. Their teams left in the tournament now is EG, Empire, Navi US, and that might not be for much longer, SNA, Team Tinker, and VP Polar, who's down to 3 actual active roster members. So,
Yeesh.
Yeah, why, right? Like, EG's like, 75 grand, bank it. But other than that, like this is some tough times for everybody, and I don't know. I want to point something out to you. So Navi US, we're about to cover in a little while, has dropped out of a couple of leagues. Empire just dropped out of Dream League. That's our next news piece. If both of those teams continue on the trend, there's going to be 4 teams left in the D2L. That's mind-blowing to me. So we'll move on past that, and I'll keep tracking it for you guys. Team Empire, like I just said, has announced they will be dropping out of Dream League. They're having roster issues, so none have been announced yet, and do not want to send anyone to the LAN final in Sweden. So they're out of that. You want to piggyback that onto something interesting, is that LGD and IG have been denied visas, so they can't go to Dream League either. So Dream League, which is already a LAN set up to go in Sweden, is rapidly running out of teams. They got Virtus Pro to replace Team Empire. Their second team is Virtus Pro Polar, who's on a 3-man roster. Invictus and LGD both dropped out. That leaves Tinker, 4ASC, Cloud9, and EG again. So, I don't know, man. Like this, what's going on with the tournament scene? This just seems crazy to me.
I'm not gonna complain because they need to invite new teams to tournaments. Then if they're, I don't know if they're looking for teams, I'm happy.
So that said, guys, if you work for Dream League, Bruno, if you're watching, Leviathan's available if you want them to fly in for Dream League. I'm sure they can make it work. So give them a call right now. Same goes for you over there at D2L. But like I said, some crazy roster switches, lots of stuff going on. In the meantime, while everyone's dealing and struggling with getting their tournaments put together, Starladder has announced Season 11, and this is their big season. This is the Thanksgiving to December season. A lot of people watch this while they're home with their families over the break. They've announced an $80,000 base prize pool, and they're doing $40,000 in travel expenses plus crowdfunding. So that's their biggest tournament to date. It's a huge prize pool, and about the same as the normal format. So all the teams, all of the usual suspects playing. Who's your favorite team playing in the new Starladder tournament? Leviathan, do you guys have any favorites for this?
Us.
Oh yeah. No, that wasn't set up or anything.
Yeah, that's.
So you guys are going to get a chance. The American tournament or division does round robin format. That means that you guys are going to get a chance to go up against EG. Well, pretty much everybody else I think you've played, right? You've played SNA before?
Yep.
So is EG the only team on that roster that you guys haven't had a chance to go up against?
Yeah, we've
Okay.
never
Yep.
played EG before.
So you do get a chance. You get a chance to prove yourself against probably the top, well, not definitely the top team in North America, but one of the top teams in the world. Is that exciting or is that a little bit scary?
It's exciting. We got some plans.
Really exciting, yeah.
Because I feel like they're like the scariest thing about that team is they're so damn hard to predict. That's like.
Yeah, they're like really versatile players. Like PPD always drafts like very interesting like theorycraft lineups, so it's
pretty
hard
much
to predict what to go into.
Pretty much the plan against that team is to try and do something so stupid that they just can't deal with it. They can't predict something that's just like unbelievably mental.
So maybe we'll see some pocket strats coming out. Do you guys? I think that tournament starts on. Oh, it started today. I think Starladder launched today.
Yeah.
So now through Christmas, guys. Lots of fun. Yep.
Shit.
The time draws near. Maybe you should go listen to the PPD interview we did on Wednesday because he talks about his drafting style. So.
Oh yeah, I listened to that.
It was like while he was talking, I could almost smell a sort of. Maybe I shouldn't say this, but it was entertaining. So Starladder is announced. Let's roll over to the Summit, the other big tournament that's been going on pretty actively right now. The American playoffs are in full swing, and what's that? Apparently, you guys are involved with this tournament as well in the playoffs, aren't you?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going good so far. Well, it ends today actually, so.
I know you guys. So for those who are watching, we'll talk about it a little bit later. Leviathan does play Complexity, and I think it's 7 hours, and then move on to face Not Today in the grand finals if they beat Complexity, which should be pretty interesting. I can't pick a side since both teams have actually been on the show, but I look forward to watching the competition. I will say this: the upset. I want to say upset only because of the fame factor and the sponsor, name recognition wise. I don't think in terms of preparation and expectation, it was as big an upset as it was played out by, say, the casters on the tournament last night. But we'll get into that a little bit later. But that said, America Summit, not today, makes it into the finals, which actually surprised me a little bit. And Leviathan Complexity will be competing for the last playoff spot, the grand final spot, in a couple of hours later today. Now, other thing that just came out, this is breaking news that I actually got from Jenkins saw before I did and let me know about, which I really appreciate. But Navi US has announced that they're dropping out of Star Series Season 11 and the I-League. And Navi US just isn't going to do it. They've had some great success in the past. They just made some roster changes, a couple of big shifts in terms of Brack's departure, the gaining of Ush on the team, and... That's funny that page you linked me actually puts Brax down as the roster still.
That's weird.
Well, it's part of the contract. So when he was on the show, he talked about how he wasn't technically allowed to say that he had left Navi US until the contract ends, which is a really weird... Anyway, I don't know a lot about the way the sponsor contracts work. Maybe you guys can tell us more about that as you start to court sponsors. But at the end of the day, Navi US definitely having some difficulty. Their new roster is strong. I just feel like the synergy isn't quite there yet. Ush is a brilliant player, but he really needs a team that helps keep his pacing leveled out. And I hope that Navi US gets some practice in, pulling all these tournaments, and turns it back around. But that is new information, and I think a lot of it, we would be remiss if we didn't say that some of that pullout had to have come from the defeat yesterday.
Yeah, they definitely... It was a bit of an upset, I guess, and, like, they're all individually skilled players, but it seemed like they lacked, like, a certain leadership, and I guess that's, like, what they're trying to work on before they enter into any more big tournaments.
Makes sense.
Makes sense probably why they, like, dropped out of I-League and Starladder.
This might be off topic, but they on the site it says losing to Leviathan. It's like, totally misspelled. I'm sorry, that's off topic, but...
No, it's fine. You know, it's. I think I spelled it right. You got me worried that maybe I spelled it wrong too.
Dude, like, oh man, like, they can just Google the word Leviathan, it'll autocorrect to Leviathan. Like, come on, man. Anyway, yeah, that's like obviously there was some salt like yesterday. Like, there's clearly some salt. I don't know if that like really had all that much to do with us. Like, it could have been any team. I'm pretty sure they just like nobody likes losing, and they kind of were expected to win this.
Oh, for sure.
The whole thing, like at the start, you know what I mean? So I feel like they kind of they need to like take a step. They feel like they need to take a step back and like rethink things a bit, which is like reasonable. And I agree that Ush is like an insane player. That's like who we usually like when we were playing them. Like, we realized like we just have to focus on pretty much ban all of his heroes and figure out how to deal with Ush. And then it's 4 protect 1. So if he's you know, you deal with Ush, you deal with the team.
And I felt like you guys did a good job of knocking him off balance and sort of keeping the team guessing as to where you were going. And it played out very, very well. We'll talk a little more about that as we go along. Now let's chat with Leviathan. Let's hear from you guys directly. So first thing I want to know is, why did you pick the name Leviathan?
Okay, I'll take this one. So I was taking like a philosophy course at the time. It's like half a year ago or something like that. And it's just like a Thomas Hobbes book he wrote.
Absolutely.
It's just pretty boring. Some comparison of like the human mind to like the commonwealth of like a city, of like the politics of a city. So it was kind of like, you know, we are like one organism type thing. Like, we are the Leviathan. Like, that's like kind of
yielding up personal freedoms for the good of the common man creates the Leviathan a powerful beast. I like it. So it's based on Hobbesian theory. Look at you, super smart.
So,
yeah.
So, super pimp. So for those of you who don't know, or maybe you're too young, it's Hobbes' Lock, the social contract. These guys so gosh darn smart that they named their team after the theory that, well, our government was built around. So I can't argue with that at all. Let's talk about you guys. Shibby, where are you from? How old are you? Give me some basic stats.
All right, I'm from Chicago, Illinois. I'm 19 years old. Been playing Dota 1 and 2 combined for about 8 years now. I've just recently gotten to like this professional amateur scene. Been working really hard lately, trying to get in as many tournaments as we can, like trying to find scrims where we have the free time. like pubbing on certain like meta heroes, everything, working my ass off kind of like I want to like show it to the world that like we're ready and like we can actually like go head to head with like these professional NA teams and even European teams for all that matters. But yeah, it's like been my like dream almost. I've been lucky enough to have like so many supportive friends and family members. Like they see this as like a potential like thing for me.
Right.
Supportive teammates too.
Yeah, it's like definitely supportive teammates. Yeah, and it's like it's really nice to have that like support because I know like some professionals like they struggled like their parents didn't really understand what it was, but like I took time to like explain it to my mom like so she like supports me and it's like really helpful.
Okay. And how old did you say you were again?
I'm 19.
19. So you're in college, or did you take some time off?
I took time off, but yeah, I would be in college right now.
Okay. Which, if you don't go to college, by the way, guys, for all of those out there listening, you don't have to. Never make me. When I say ask somebody if they're in college, I never think that anybody should necessarily go. I just don't know. You know, if you're here at 9:30 in the morning, you probably don't have a full-time job either. So figured I'd throw out that question. Okay, so that's your story right now. Give me your stats, Jenkins.
Hey, I watch Coffee with Toffees at work, dude.
That's what I've heard. Well, that's why I designed it the way that I did, with like the audio only basis. But so tell me about you.
I'm Andy Jenkins, 20, and I go to Waterloo University in Canada, Ontario, for computer science and math. About Dota. When did I get into Dota? Like 2 years ago. I started playing at the start of college. You guys call it college. I'm Canadian. We call it university. We call what you guys would call community college. That's what we call college. Anyway, that's like tangent.
Okay.
Yeah, I got onto it 2 years ago. I've been playing with Shibby pretty much since probably like pretty soon after I started playing with Shibby. We never played like on a team together until we formed the original Leviathan flip side. So,
excellent. So, university. How do your parents like that you're trying to go pro here, or is it just a hobby while you get a math credit? As far
oh
as
yeah, my mom doesn't really understand computers. Well, she like. It's not. She doesn't care. Like she played Farmville a little bit. Like she likes like the Facebook games, but she's not like, you know. She's like there have been times where she would ask me to fix her laptop, and it would literally be dead because it's been like 3 years since she's turned it on, and it's just a dead laptop because she just sometimes just goes like years without using computers, and like she just doesn't. She doesn't like I tell her and stuff, and she pretends to understand and to care. She just doesn't. She'll support me like with whatever I do. And with my dad, he actually like understands. He's like a computer guy, so. But until I told them about like sponsorship offers and stuff that we're getting, they never really thought it was like serious. It seems that like the money and like when people start offering like different things to you for playing video games, it starts to like get validated to people when like there's money involved, which kind of sucks because you know. That like stops a lot of people from trying to play, but
for sure.
Yeah, they understand.
100%. I think all of us understand what you're saying. The second that there's a dollar sign attached to it, whether it's $5 or $500, people then all of a sudden say, "Oh, well, then maybe that is legitimate." So
yeah,
it's a double-edged sword as we move into the new generation of esports. But we're only a few years out. We all get to be the new generation of parents that understand it. And,
I really hope
different
so, man. Yeah, I really hope it is.
It should be. I mean, like, my son watches Dota with me on a daily basis, you know, and if he chooses to go after something like this, then I already know how it works. So I think that times are changing. We're just going to have to get there little by little. But let's keep moving forward. I want to know about your training regimen for Dota, guys. How do you train to do your thing?
We're pretty bad for that. We'll have like... we scrim. We set up a lot of scrims with like teams like Complexity. For some reason I can't. Just like NA teams in general. Okay. We did scrim Team Secret and before when they were doing ESL. Okay. And that was like a treat. Like that gave us a lot of confidence because obviously we lost every game we scrimmed against them, but they were like really good games, so that was like a big confidence boost. I think pretty much like we're all just like pub stars. We all just like pub a lot, and probably fuck around a little too much. Because it's just difficult to scrim a lot. I see like a lot like the complexity guys and like not today, for example. Like these guys are like scrimming all day for the summit, and it's kind of intimidating because we literally can't, because Shredder has class, Sunken works, Shibby and Nusham have to like do a bunch of things, and I have to do a bunch of things too, and it's just like we can't all be on at once. So we do a lot of pubs. It's pretty much just pubs, and we do scrim usually.
So is the hope, and we'll talk about this in a little while, but is the hope that at some point you get to a place where you guys can start putting in that time, where maybe a sponsor comes on board and makes it feasible?
You have no idea how much we would all fucking love that to like, that's the dream. Like, honestly, like I feel like if we could actually play, if we could do like consistent scrims and like kind of do it as like a second job, or even like a full-time job, like I feel like we'd be a lot more like, you see us make a lot of pub mistakes in games, and that's because we're pub players. Like, that's how we play. We really don't scrim all that much. That's just, unless it's like right before a tournament. So yeah, we would just love to be able to play and just practice and stuff. But
so something like, for instance, Complexity, when they signed their new team, got a house for them in LA for a couple of months to just play constantly.
Yeah,
so that's something that down the line, if Summit goes well, if Starladder blows up, that's something you guys would be interested in potentially doing.
Yeah, like we've been talking about that for a while. Like everyone's like working out their school schedules and whatnot. And like if we're like actually like doing as well as we're doing now, we get like, it's really reasonable getting like a team house down the road. But we have to get there first.
Not too much, Shibby, because
it's okay.
I can let you get your but I think like during kind of middle group stages of the summit, we kind of agreed like if we could beat Navi US, we would drop everything to do Dota. You know what I mean? Because like the way we see it, like they were the Titans, at least at that point, because that was like pre Brax 1437, that sort of stuff.
Right.
So we just thought like if we can beat those guys, we would do that. And we didn't wasn't all like wasn't all that serious at the time, but now we're like obviously taking it way more seriously because we're doing pretty well. So
yeah, absolutely, and that makes sense to, I think, all of us. And so let's move on from there and say a lot of folks, and this happened yesterday when I was watching the replays. A lot of folks are saying that you're bursting out of the scene, that you're coming out of nowhere. I was actually, did you guys get a chance? Did you rewatch the replays with the casters, or do you rewatch replays without the casting?
I haven't got the chance to watch them yet.
Okay.
I do like watching like what the casters say. Like it's interesting seeing their opinions on like certain situations.
Do you have a beard, Shibby? Is that?
No, it's my shitty like headset. I'm sorry. I'll like move it away from my shirt.
There we go. That's a little bit better. I want to say this, and for everybody out there, Zyori actually was impressively connected with your previous game experience. He seemed to know a lot about you guys and your drafting style, so that was actually pretty cool. But they both were kind of talking about, hey, they came out of nowhere, and you know, you guys have been doing this for a while. It's been what, 6 months that you've been together?
Yeah. It's been a long time.
And so because I remember seeing you guys doing a lot of sort of SECS and the smaller tournaments. Is that kind of how the team came together? Tell me about the formation of the team, I guess is the best way to say it.
Pretty much just friends. Like, we've all played together for ages. I mean, we had maybe, do you remember Avanti's Angels? Mm-hmm. Do you remember? Yeah, back in the day of MLG 20 something. Like during that time, we were all friends. Like was that just me on the team at that point, Shibby? Was it like out of the current? Oh no, Nusham.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, Nusham or Shredder definitely. I remember on that team.
Nusham and I,
Classic
and then
Nusham.
Yeah, classic Nusham. And then eventually we just like kept losing players because like there are some issues with a lot of the players, and pretty much this team is the one that's like the most mentally stable team roster of just like friends. And then we have had like times where, we like fight and we think like somebody's like a weak player, but we've like kind of gotten past that and realized that like the most important thing is that like we're like a team of friends. I think that's like an edge.
Absolutely. So you started sort of playing as a team of friends without any impetus to go pro, or did you guys come together as a team of friends because you said, "Hey, we're all individually good. Let's make a run at this"?
I think, well, like I've since Avante's Angels, I've kind of always been on a team that's like been playing in sex and stuff like as just as like a kind of like a hobby, and then eventually we just got like good enough to actually play against real teams, which was pretty nice. So it kind of just happened from like a hobby. There was never really like any intent to go pro, although that's like always on your mind, obviously.
Right. Well, you heard it here, guys. SCS develops teams, so go buy your ticket. It's 99 cents. I have to say that because I'm the head caster. So we got our plug in. Okay, perfect. So that's kind of the formation of the team. After that, you guys formed New Leviathan. LVT kind of came out on the scene and started doing some good games, and then you signed with Flipside earlier this year. And then shortly afterwards, parted ways with them. So, can you talk a little bit about what happened there with the short-lived sponsorship?
All right, you want to, or should I?
Sure. Yeah, sure.
All right. Okay.
Okay, dude. Okay, you want to?
All right. My point of view from that one is like we weren't ready at the time for a sponsor. Like it felt like we were just given it, and like no one really felt like they were earning it. And it's just like when you want to get sponsored, you want it to be kind of big. You want to maybe earn something from it. But just at the time, we probably weren't ready, actually. And it was a little fast-paced. And
pretty much, I don't think we were worth it at the time for a sponsorship. And we didn't want to like have a name attached to us that was anything other than us for when we were ready for a sponsorship. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
So we kind of looked like a free agent by the time we were ready. And also, like, yeah, just... like we're still really good friends with those guys. Like I love like those guys. They're a really good bunch of people. Like lots of super talented people at Flipside. But we just honestly weren't ready. Probably ready now, but I don't know. We'll see what's in store.
Okay, so not quite ready. Did you have any trouble, or just when you told Flipside that they were like, we respect it and contract over? So was it an amicable parting, I should say?
Yeah, for sure. It was.
Good vibes, no like hard feelings.
Never heard anyone use that word before, so I haven't. That could mean anything, and I'm saying yes because I'm just assuming it. It's like a good, like we're on like definitely good terms.
Good terms.
They're friends. Like I play with them all the time. Like they're like always be our friends. We went to TI4 together.
Okay. And
hung out with them a lot, so like we have like a personal relationship with those guys. So like there's absolutely no hard feelings.
Good. That's good to hear. So you left, you wanted to be unattached, and now you said you think you might be ready. So you're getting to that point where you're going to be looking for a sponsor again. What do you look for when you are looking for a sponsor? Like when Swindle was on here, he kind of talked about what he's always looked for in sponsorship. Tell me, what are you looking for?
Like the like dream is to like look for something that can like guarantee that we can play as a job, like because I feel like if we did that we would win things, which is kind of like the intent. Yeah, pretty much something that lets you play it like as like a full or part-time job without worrying about like validation, justification. So
yeah, it's also nice like having a sponsor just like gives you all that time you need. Like one thing we've been struggling with is like time to schedule scrims and whatnot. But like some people are lucky enough to get like a team house ready and have set scrim times. So like they just improve like a lot more than any other team usually. Right. And that's like something to look forward to.
Like COL, for example, like look how strong they are from the team housing. Like they just dominated the group stages, and it's probably because they just like practiced their asses off, and it clearly shows. Like they've researched like everyone's drafts, and they do it as a job, and they're hella good at what they do. So
absolutely, they also have a lot of veterancy in terms of competitive gaming.
Yeah.
But for those of you guys who are listening that are kind of thinking about sponsorships and how teams cannot go for them early on, keep in mind that we live in a day and age with Dota right now where there's things like travel funding, right? Like if these guys, if Leviathan, if you do well in Starladder and make it to the LAN, they're going to pay for your trip. A year ago, that wasn't on the table for a lot of tournaments. In fact, even today, there's a lot that aren't. So I think the difference between then and now is then you had to get a sponsor quickly because you had to pay for your trip. I mean, now you can hold off for a little while if you want to, right? Because the tournament that you guys are playing in, if you make it to the summit, they're going to pay for you to fly out.
Yep, it's pretty convenient and very nice of them to do that. Like, definitely helps.
And
Yeah,
it gives you some negotiating power potentially with sponsors down the line.
Yeah.
So, excellent. Let's talk about, you guys are solo again. You're looking for a sponsor, so put that out in the universe that maybe something can come out and help you there. But so far, it's going well. You did lose to Complexity Gaming in the winners bracket or the initial bracket of the playoffs. But then you went on to beat Navi US, who was sort of a benchmark for you, maybe before the changes, maybe not as much now since they're in a rebuilding phase. But that's still pretty big. So you guys advanced in the losers bracket to go up against Complexity again. Before we talk about the plans, let's talk about last night. A couple questions for you. First, let's talk about the drafts. And now, some of you viewing may not be aware of this. You may not know the team that well. But I want to talk about two particular picks. The first one is for Jenkins. And Jenkins, you picked the Pudge in game one. For those of you who don't know, a lot of folks saw the pick and went, what? He picked a Pudge. But what I want to share with you guys is Phage actually compiled some stats for me. And what we know is that you've played him 8 times competitively as Leviathan, and your actual win rate with him is 63%, which is incredible, a really good win rate, especially
That's
for a
decent.
Pudge.
That's decent.
Yeah, it's good. That's real good. Is there a particular thing about that hero that drives you to pick him, or why the Pudge, I guess, so often?
Well, number one, I have 1,000 Pudge games, so...
And a hell of a transmog, or whatever you call it.
Yeah,
Cosmetic.
I got every Pudge cosmetic. Like, actually everyone, I'm pathetic. Okay. But, yeah, that's, it's like, definitely my best hero, but, like, the most important thing about the Pudge is that I have a team that can play insanely well with the Pudge. Like, for the most part, you'll have, like... People will know when to set up for hooks. They'll know when I'm going to hook them out. They'll know when they're going to get four stepped up a cliff. They know when people are going to get like they just like these guys. Like we've played so many Pudge games together that it's actually really strong. With also the jungling thing, like the fact that he can bail to the jungle, that was kind of like our little pocket strat. People obviously like ward it now. They go ward the jungle.
Right.
That's an advantage though. They're using wards to it like that costs them, and then we just throw it in some other lane. It's just it's really nice to like mind games people, and it's definitely really strong with like the team in general.
So was that? So you said you guys started as sort of as a pub team, right? You played a lot of pub style gaming.
Yeah.
Is the Pudge synergy a result of the pubbing? Because I mean, when I pub with my team, like I have a team and I pub with them because they're my friends too. When we pub, we just pick stuff that we like, right?
Oh yeah, God,
so,
yeah.
Is that sort of how this synergy emerged?
That's exactly how. Yeah, that's. I've just like pubbed with these guys for years, and they know the Pudge, probably a little too well. So, like,
so you Pudge so much to like, God, I guess we'll learn to play with it, and then it just became something that's functional.
Yeah, Shibby just knows. You know, you stun the guy, you move the fuck out of the way, and he's gonna be dragged back into the tower to his death. So yeah, like he knows. Like everyone knows. It's just, it's a really strong hero. I actually think it's like if teams could play it, which I'm sure a lot of people can, they're just like afraid.
Right.
I actually think it would be not like god tier like Brew Void, but I would put it on the tier below that in terms of it's actually consistent at this point because they've improved his turn rate. Hook now goes through BKB, the damage, which is absolutely insane. You can hook someone through BKB, you can pull them back with if somebody's TPing away and you hook them, if you time it right, you can actually pull them back. Like that on its own like is enough to to warrant the Pudge. I think that the fact that like you literally can't BKB TP against a good Pudge. Like
Right.
the hero just has so much utility. I could go on for fucking ever about Pudge. You shouldn't have asked me about Pudge.
That's fine. I'm curious to hear it because it's something out of the box that I think. I don't know. When you talk about like a Dendy Pudge, everybody loves like when you watch TI and they pick Pudge for Dendy, everyone cheers wildly. Pudge, one of those heroes that we love to see played well, but we hate to see picked in our pubs. So I commend you for taking it. I do want to ask you, were you frustrated at the start of game one because you missed a heck of a lot of early hooks?
It's okay against Navi US. Like I have like a okay. I have a history with Korok since MLG. I don't think he's scared of my Pudge. That's why they banned it. And probably the absolute best thing about Pudge is the fear factor. And when that's not there, I mean, I did hit hooks
right.
Eventually, but I had to throw so many of them because he wasn't juking himself into holes. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like he wasn't. I just couldn't clip him because he didn't care. It's just like he definitely that's a player who knows how to play against the Pudge because he's played against it before. He's not.
So essentially, what you're saying is a Pudge player that the best way to beat a Pudge is not to live in fear of the Pudge.
That's absolutely the best way to, because you got to realize that the big fat cocksucker has 0 armor at level 1, man. Like he's nothing to be scared of unless like it's like if you see a bear in the woods, you're not supposed to run away from it because bears are fast and bears will kill you because they're bears. It's the same goes with Pudge. You run away from Pudge, he's rotting you, he's hitting you, you're not getting hits in. If you just turn and fight him,
right.
I mean, he's taking the same damage from rot too, right? Like,
right.
Yeah, it's like a fear factor thing.
So there you have it, folks. Jenkins just told us how to beat his #1 hero. So that should be entertaining. Second, let's talk a little bit about Shibby and a hero that he seems to pick a lot, and that's the Brewmaster. Now, this one's an interesting stat. I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but your win rate with Brewmaster when picked in competitive play is 73%. So that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I mean, Brew itself is like tier 1 hero. Like, whenever we can get it, like, without being baited into it, we definitely pick it. I practice him a lot. Like, I find the hero just like extremely overpowered almost.
Dude.
Yeah, it's like, oh boy, right before a big summit game. But no, I agree. It's like I enjoy the hero. He's incredibly overpowered and just very simple. I think.
Right.
You can just win, like dominate the lane phase, dominate the mid game, and he even transitions now really well into the late.
It's really nice for control because even if we don't kill anybody with the Brew ult, which Shibby usually kills at least one person because the guy plays so much fucking Brew, but we mainly use the Brew ult for zoning, for pushing towers, and I think a lot of teams are doing that now, like realizing that you don't have to always get a kill with the ulti, or even just hold the ulti. You just fucking throw it out and push the tower with like a Jakiro Furion or Troll Warlord or Void or something like that.
So, just for the fans real quick, I want to point out that the numbers that I gave you, FaZe just informed me, were for competitive tournaments with over $2,000 in prize pool. So, the Brewmaster and the Pudge stats with the 62 and the 73% win rate are basically when there's a bunch of money on the line. So that makes it even cooler.
Yeah.
And I will also say, hopefully we didn't give away any strategy that for those who might be thinking, well, why are they talking about it? Because if you go to Dota and hit 3 buttons, it all shows up.
Yeah, so, we have some different things planned for today, so it's...
You heard it here first, folks. Different things. So, to the teams that are playing them, don't worry about banning out the Brewmaster or the Pudge, because they weren't planning on picking it anyway. Wink, wink. So we'll go past that. Let me ask you a couple more. Game 2. You guys fell behind by 4 kills in the first 6 minutes. You fell behind again around 8 minutes. You had an incredibly tough laning phase. However, I was blown away at the tenacity that you showed in all of your games and bouncing back constantly. They were, Merlin described them as a scrappy matches, and they were well beyond scrappy. They were literally like watching Rocky. Like, you guys would get 1-2 punch, right? You'd go down, and all of a sudden you'd bounce back. And I want to know, that's not something we see in teams a lot. What is it about your team, your makeup, your system that lets you bounce back in these situations?
I'm the Lord of Backtracks. That's how.
Yeah. I
um,
think also. Sorry, you can.
Go ahead, Shibby.
Okay. Well,
Just interrupt me.
in
What?
this in the second game, definitely like there was some 3-2-2 action going on. I think that's like one thing that really helped us. They didn't prioritize BKBs on their heroes when we had like a huge amount of magic damage, like a sniper shrapnel, his headshot, maelstrom, void bash, and just AA ult, and it's just like I don't know. They kind of made some ballsy decisions. AA or Wraith King got like an Aegis and just went ham, dove like our tier threes while his team was getting zoned by a Chrono, and then it just slowly started to snowball from there.
Zoning, dude. All about the zoning.
Yeah, zoning Chronos, man.
Yeah, I think like there's a lot of games where we um a lot of games where we're like uncomfortable with the late game, and as a result, like we won't keep focused and we'll throw, and then we'll just lose the late game. But that game, we called out in Skype. We said like, dudes, like we can, like just give them as little as as humanly possible, and if we get 2 kills for one, don't go for more because we're really greedy. We will always go for kills in team fights. But that game, we just knew we had the late game because of the like you have a sniper void like sniper void troll. Like how do you it's just the damage is so real with that combo, and we kind of just like waited for them to throw, and it always happens. This meta's like so rubber band, so it's pretty nice that they threw for us.
Absolutely. And to be honest with you guys, now that you say that, you're right. There was no there wasn't any classic Newsham last night. And for those of you guys who you probably don't follow the casting that we do for SCCS, but we started a joke a couple of months ago because when Leviathan came onto the scene, you guys were really greedy. You'd get like these kills, and then Newsham would lead a charge in way too deep and get destroyed. And it would just be like classic Newsham going in there when he probably shouldn't have been, wanted that last kill. And you guys controlled that very well yesterday, and I thought that was really impressive. The other question I have is, do you think that, for instance, Game 2, the non-BKB choices, was that a byproduct of them underestimating you from the start?
I think so, personally. I think they just got a little bit too greedy.
It's greed. They want... It's just such a defensive pickup. It doesn't give you like all that much damage. It's just, you know, it was definitely greed, I'd say. Yeah. You know, maybe they like because like bad item choices happen. Like you choose as a team like what items you're gonna build. Like people were given, you know, like the Shredder Radiance thing. Like we always like every person's item in the game. Like we've talked about, and you know, obviously because you're on a team. It's just. And so I could see them justifying not getting BKBs. Like that's because we have like fallen victim to that before too. Because there are some heroes which are deceptively, you would think that you don't need a BKB. Like Witch Doctor, for example. Like you think, oh man, his ulti's magical damage, or his ulti's physical damage, so I don't need a BKB against it. And then you just get cast and maledicted, and you're fucked. And you know, so I could see it. Like it happens. So.
And then Game 3. Now, if there was ever a ping pong match, I think actually Zyri called it a pong match, and it was the last 3 pushes. It was like you go down mid lane, then they came up mid lane, then you went down mid lane, then they came up in mid lane. Everybody just stopped caring about the side lanes. Those creeps were like, "Hey, first time ever, we get to just fight," and they were having a great time. Tell me about that last 8 minutes, just sort of the feeling in Skype, just the atmosphere, because I got a little frantic for you, so I imagine it was a lot of fun for you guys.
Well, there is actually a point where Shredder said, "Holy fuck, we actually lost," and like, he was just like, he's standing by the fountain. He's like, "There's nothing I can do. I can't do anything right now, guys." And then I was just like, "Dude, just go in. Like, you have to go in. Like, we have no other choice." And then he goes in and just like whacks the guy, and like 2 hits him with Wraith King, and we just walked
like, holy
straight
shit,
down.
we just won, maybe.
we thought we won, so we just walked down mid to get fucking wiped, and then they walked down mid. Oh Jesus, like, yeah, that was because both teams knew like we didn't have a buyback on like a core hero, so it's like, oh man, we can win a fight. Like we're not gonna like fuck anything up, and then we did, and then they did, and then we did, and then they did, and then we won. So
well, you both sort of had these RNGesus heroes, right? You had the Wraith King on one side who depended on
Yeah,
his crit
yeah.
to proc, and the PA with her coup de grace on the other, and it was like, all right, we're gonna fight, and whoever gets the best procs wins the game.
And then Ember had crit too, yeah, so.
Yeah.
But I will say this, and I think that the key to the game, and it was incredibly smart of you guys, was once the coup de grace got up, the rush to the Legion Commander Blade Mail was incredibly smart, incredibly well planned, and the answer to that game. Because you got 2 major kills during hard pushes based entirely off of coup de grace backfire.
Yeah, I was like feeding that game, and then I get a BKB Blade Mail, and I was just able to kill anyone. I actually think Legion's really underrated. I feel like that hero, she's really nice in a solo lane if you can get solo experience. But she doesn't really like being tri-laned against. She doesn't have all that. There's like, it's hard to get like backup farm, especially if you have like a greedy jungler or like support sword jungling. She likes to have like the medium easy camp if you do jungle. It's just I think that hero's really underrated. I think it's really strong. It's just it's like Doom, man. I don't know. It's like it's pretty gross.
Like,
It's like a guaranteed kill on their carry with just a blade mail. That's it.
Right.
Like that's all you need.
Yeah.
Blade mail blink. It's really gross.
Absolutely. So pretty fun stuff to watch. Entertaining game. Moving past that game, let me ask you this. This is the question I was most curious about. Your team, some of your players specifically, have been known since the beginning of time for being insanely clowny. I've seen a lot of that disappear. So why is that? What prompts the change? And before you answer, for those of you who may not know, some of you are getting to know Leviathan today. When I would jump into a lobby with them, it was like spam chat, crazy talk. All chat was always fucking weird. Like, you don't know what's happening. In fact, I think for the first like month and a half that I knew you guys, I wasn't sure if I was being trolled, flamed, or complimented because the clowniness is kind of what we did. But that's changed a lot. So explain the transition and kind of maybe the future of Leviathan piggybacked off of that.
Well, like we're still a bunch of fucking idiots. Like let's be honest. Like we probably we have this maybe you saw it on Reddit. We have this plan to release like footage of just like our video of like our competitive games.
Okay.
Like the draft and the game and like with the Skype chat, and people seemed interested in it, and it would actually be like pretty embarrassing because like we do fuck around like probably a little too much. In fact, we almost lost a few games in the group stages from messing around, but it's gotten a lot better, and that's like mostly because we went through like a few phases of just like throwing games because of like clowniness,
Right.
and then we had to like kind of be a little bit more serious.
So
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Just like we were clowny, we got like punished for it. In terms of play, we're still idiots. Like in terms of like just
Our
existing
social lives and
social
whatnot.
lives. Yeah, like we're idiots.
But when you're
That-
pub
the
starring, it's
competitive.
different. So when
Yeah.
you're pub starring, you can clown and still get away with it. Or nobody
Yeah, yeah.
cares if you
Yeah.
clown out of a TECS.
Exactly.
Actually, I would say the point at which it like stopped the most is like we all went to like TI except for Shibby because he's a retard. But we all went to TI together except for Shibby, and we kind of like realized like, man, we like want to be here next year. Like, if we want to be here, like we have to, like something has to change. Like we have to take it as seriously as possible. And like even if we like don't get there, at the very least, we invested everything into it. Like we did our best. You know what I mean? Like, so in order to do that, we kind of had to like cut down on like the clowniness a little bit.
So along those lines, what does the next year look like for LBT?
Well, after Summit, okay, Shibby, go
Okay,
ahead.
I was gonna say like I think like Summit's definitely like something we can still do. We have Starladder, we have I-League, and depending on how we perform, like I have confidence in us performing very well. And I think honestly, like looking up to it, I've seen the teams that got invited to like North American qualifiers for TI. Like that's definitely like something I can see happening for us. And it's like we just had to stay together till then, improve, and it's definitely like a dream goal of ours, and it's very achievable.
So you said something interesting. You said we have to stay together till then. Do you think there's a risk of that not happening? Is there someone on the team who's shaky, or is it just because life's so difficult?
No, just because life just can throw anything at you, really, and it's like you never know what's gonna happen, even just in like your real situations. Like God knows like what can happen to people. Like they have to do work, they have to help someone out, like anything like that. But I feel confident as like a 5-man roster. Like I don't want to replace anyone.
Yeah,
We've gotten through all our tough times.
We have had like tough times where we've like thought of replacing people. Like fuck, man, everyone's been on the chopping block. Like literally everyone, like including me. And you know when you are, and it's just like you just like gotta understand that like you have to be there for people if you expect them to be there for you. You know what I mean? Like that just seems like logical to me. So
that's a quote. That's the quote for the interview, guys. Everyone's been on the chopping block, but you have to be there for people if you want them to be there for you, and that's probably the most heartfelt thing I've ever heard Jenkins say in my life. Mark that shit. Tweet it back at him. I mean, the guy's lonely, for crying out loud. By the way, longest name ever.
Oh yeah, that's rough. Yeah, I try to like mark down like Roche timings and stuff like that. And who am I kidding? I don't fucking do Roche timings. I'm not.
You guys just wing it, huh? It's all about the feel.
Oh no. The supports do timings, but I was just saying like I don't do. But I do like call items on people, and it's just like there's a glitch in the game because my name's so long that you can't even see the it'll say like
just like a little arrow
when it's like poor man shield. It's like like player X has poo, and it's like nice, dude. Everybody has that, man. Everybody's got poo.
Everybody poops. It's a book I'll have to buy for my kids sometime in the near future. But guys, that's about all the time we have for the show today. A big thank you to the guys for being here. Obviously, thank you to the viewers, whether or not you're watching live or you're watching this on the podcast or the replay later. You're what keeps me going and keeps the show running, so thank you for being here. Obviously, to replug, at Toffees_Dota2 is the best Twitter account on Twitter. You should totally follow it because, well, them's the breaks, kid. Secondly, if you want to support the show, you can go to patreon.com/Toffees. We put a lot of hours into this thing. I'm trying to get a producer on board to take some of the burden off of me. But the only way I can do that is if people decide to monetarily support the show. And if you don't, no big deal. I'll still be here. But it won't be as gosh darn sexy as it could be. That said, guys have been great. The interviews were awesome. Do you have any last words or shout-outs? We'll start with Jenkins. We'll move to Shibby. What do you got for me?
Shout out to Eric Sheeter, the Shredder. I don't want to shout out. I don't want to shout out anybody else.
Okay.
Just Eric Sheeter.
F them all. All right. So a big shout out to Shredder. What we got from you, Shibby?
Big shout out to Ignite Gaming Lounge, GIF Chicagoland. Shout out to my Kachi boys, like an old PC cafe I used to go to where I learned how to play Dota.
Nice.
And shout out to my boy Ink Dota.
So why don't you guys tell us your Twitters real quick and maybe anywhere else that they can find you or maybe find the team. Do we have a Leviathan Twitter?
No, we don't.
Not yet.
We might have one coming in soon.
Okay. What about your individuals?
And a YouTube account. I'm at Jenkins Dota. He's at Shibby Dota. His name's got a lot of. It's SHIIBBYY because I don't know. Shibby's it's symmetrical or something like that. So.
Yeah,
It's
aesthetically pleasing.
So let me ask this real quick on a side note. How'd you pick the name?
Me? I got it from a movie. It's like
Dude, where's my car?
back when I was smoking a lot of weed, I was just like, "Hey, Shibby," and then it's stuck.
But Leviathan Dota does not condone.
Yeah, I don't know. We don't condone. Dare to say no to drugs.
Fair enough. I had Staggering on here a couple of weeks ago, and they had all kinds of good talk about that sort of thing. But I respect the movie. It was one of my favorites when I was in high school for reasons that we won't talk about either. But I thought it might be from that. I thought I'd ask. That's entertaining. But guys, thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Everybody else, thanks for watching. And as always,